What's a deep dark rabbit hole to research when bored? The saved section of your Reddit user profile. I've saved so much shit and then promptly forgot about it. Just like I'm going to do with this thread. I've been on Reddit so long it's like an archaeological dig going through my saved list. When I worked at a call center we often had quiet times and the internet blocked most things. Unusual wiki articles kept me entertained for quite some time though. It's full of random strange things. Yeah, whenever I had to sub as a receptionist while she was having lunch, I'd read Crime Library, crimelibrary.org. Oh shit, thanks for this. Also, should I be embarrassed that I recognize a fair number of these? Maybe I should go outside sometimes. Feral children. I had to stop reading these accounts because it made me too sad seeing over and over that the rescuers almost always killed the kids' animal families and the children pretty much never had any quality of life after. I wonder how long that could go without outside intervention. Like, could they become adults and still remain with those animals? Fire disasters and then never feel safe in an indoor crowded space ever again. There's actually video on YouTube of the Great White Disaster and it's utterly horrifying how incredibly quickly it happens, and seeing the people literally stuck in the doorway unable to get out as they burn to death. As someone who still goes to a lot of shows at small packed music venues exactly like that one, and other totally packed bars and clubs, I'm always constantly looking for exits to find the nearest escape path, and it always freaks me out anytime there's any fire in any indoor space. Candles/sparklers/pyrotechnics/etc. The station video, when the camera pans over the crush of people stuck in the doorway, still alive and crying in pain and panic. It's exactly how I'd picture a circle of hell. It turns my stomach. Money laundering and how laundered money flows around the world. Most info is public from gov agencies like the CIA and State Department. Yeah, not a cop, but work in fintech and have done fraud and AML, anti-money laundering, detection, computer stuff. It's pretty depressing. Its definition was eye-opening when I was younger, realizing how money laundering looks a lot like most tax evasion schemes. From a computer detection standpoint, they're almost the same thing when all you can view is say financial transactions and records. How many prominent banks, politicians, and authorities will alert on models built using the information in 1. How little cops and the government fund investigations and detection of such activities. Usually our models were just so some institution could check a box, and the unspoken truth was that the execs at large financial institutions didn't really put a lot of time or effort into our work, even when it was good. There's a reason the drug cartels operate with impunity, and the George Carlin bid was 100% right when he said the way to really fix a lot of ills in the world is to start forcing international bankers to see jail time when they knowingly operate with unsavory people. From Trump and the Clintons, this ill is bipartisan, on down to maybe some of your local bankers where you live. A lot of them probably deserve jail time when you start considering their financial statements in the light of how the world would probably look if we were all honest, law-abiding citizens. Mass hysteria. There are different kinds that have affected different cultures in different ways. Multiple times throughout history, groups of people have uncontrollably danced themselves to deaths. In other parts of the world, men can become stricken with the belief that their penis is receding into their bodies. It was often believed the only way to prevent this from happening overnight was for family members to hold their members etc. You can't forget about the crutch of nuns that just started meowing and only stopped because the nearby town threatened to kill them all if they didn't stop. Sister Gertrude, would you kindly cut the shit? This should give you an hour or two. List of unusual deaths. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/list_of_unusual_deaths. Daniel John O'Brien, 31, committed suicide by jumping into one of the engines of a British Airways Boeing 747 at Pierco International Airport, Trinidad. He is said to have scaled an airport wall in the nude, attacked 4 security guards, and stole their 4-wheel drive vehicle, drove the vehicle into the jet, then clambered out of the wreckage, smeared grease on his bleeding shoulder, and hurled himself into one of the plane's engines. Now that's some fucking commitment. I feel like there has to have been an easier way to accomplish death. Prion diseases. Every single one is weird and dark. It includes cannibalism and family curses. And deers walking onto legs. And industrial farming plus forced cow cannibalism. Edit. Thanks for 2000 upvotes. I would also add treating people with dead people's brain extract. And also that fungi can get prions. But they just don't care that much. Fungi are weird. 2 fun facts I learned in med school about this. The most common human prion disease is Creutzfeldt-Jakob and 85% of cases occur spontaneously. There is a widespread mutation in the human population that protects against Kuru, a human prion disease spread by cannibalizing brains. This suggests cannibalism was a common practice at some point in human history. The wiki for the timeline for far future events. If you want to feel insignificant and learn some shit, check this out. https://endpoint.wikipedia.org/wiki/timeline_of_the_far_future. I can't believe you've done this. Volcanoes scare me, and now I'm gonna be anxious as hell for the next 17,000 years. Dude, I read the whole fucking thing, and I got to work all day tomorrow. Thanks for the link, but fuck you. The town of Skidmore, Missouri in the US. It's sort of a small topic, but it leads in so many different directions. It's most famous for the murder of the town bully. That's a mild name for him. He was horrible, in the middle of the day, on the main street, with a bunch of witnesses, but no one has ever been arrested. But there's also the later case of a woman who was murdered and her unborn baby stolen, and even later a teenager, who was related to the murdered woman, just disappeared and is thought to have been taken by a serial killer. All this in a town of fewer than 200 people. I'm not superstitious, but I also wouldn't move there. There is a documentary on Sundance about the bully, but the best introduction is a book called In Broad Daylight. From there, you just get farther and farther down tangential paths, trying to figure out what have happened. Less info on the 2 later cases, but still an internet black hole you can fall into for days. Had a friend who lived next door to the poor lady who was killed. I lived about 15 miles away at the time. She was still alive when her mom found her. I can't fathom the trauma of seeing your daughter cut open like that with her baby stolen. As for the town bully, I heard a bunch of stories about that dude. He was real bad. Didn't meet a single local who felt any remorse at his death. The history of lobotomism cannibalism. I have spent more time researching these topics than the time taken to write a 90-page essay. Super fascinating if you don't get grossed out. Lobotomies disturb me in more ways than I can express. It's a profound violation of your identity and self. To have your very mind mutilated until you don't even recognize what you are. That total robbing of you as a person, leaving you mentally inert, is a thing out of horror. Lobotomies have always been of interest to me, primarily because of how ludicrous it sounds to my mind that anyone rationalized it as a legitimate use of medical services. If you haven't watched Netflix's Ratched series, there is a scene depicting a lobotomy being done. It's not visually graphic, but the sound they portray was fucking haunting. Good god, if it actually sounded anything like that, it would sit uneasy with me for years. The domino effect that led up to World War I, and then later World War II. It's interesting to learn about, but it's just a clusterfuck of easily preventable situations. My history professor would always say in college that some historians consider WW2 really WW 1.5 and was just a continuation of WW1. WW2 was just WW1 storming out of the room after an argument and coming back while yelling. And another thing. Caving and cave diving accidents. Accidentally watched one on YouTube, then went down the rabbit hole. This led to some more parallel topics of horrible fates, bad deaths, etc. After few days, started getting disturbed sleep as this became my routine of watching before the sleep time. With self-restraint, finally I got out of it. I've been watching these too. It's insane how many seasoned veterans just make one little mistake and they're doomed. Especially the sheer helplessness, impossibility of rescue, darkness and isolation. Man, no thank you. Not ever. The sign outside of that one famous underwater cave says it best. There is nothing in here worth dying for. You should go check out Scary Interesting on YouTube. Bunch of crazy cave diving gone wrong videos among other things. Shipwrecks. Been absolutely obsessed with them the past few days. There's so much to discover and learn about, and so much corruption as well as just interesting circumstances that these huge machines go down in. And adding to that, technical diving accidents. Especially in shipwrecks. You can dive down to the sunken and rear Doria that wrecked because another enormous ship collided sideways into it. Ship and collect first class dinnerware as plunder, but people have died, seemingly becoming lost in the complete darkness of the halls inside, or user error in any capacity, such as not having the correct oxygen tank levels, leading to hallucinations and false confidence that makes you drown. Edit. I can't thank you guys enough for all the media recommendations and personal anecdotes from these shipwrecks. I have a lot to binge for the next few weeks, and I'm fascinated by the stories shared in these comments. I'm reading every one. The sea is completely indifferent, and if you fuck around you find out. Rabies. You don't quite realize how horrifying it is. A few months ago I saw an old black and white footage on a Reddit sub of a man in a hospital literally dying from it. Like, you actually saw him die in front of the camera, in a horrendous, painful twitching manner, and there was nothing the medical people could do about it to either prevent it or make it any more comfortable for him. Yeah, if I ever get rabies, just fucking kill me. That's how you make it more comfortable. Skip the whole hydrophobic and suffering part. Go to doctor immediately if you've been bitten by an animal. It's your only shot. Don't wait. Binge watching Mayday, the series about plane crashes, and looking up each incident on Google/Wiki afterwards. Yup, second this. If anyone interested, I would check out r/Admiral Cloudberg, very in-depth but digestible write-ups on a wild host of different incidents. Sleep paralysis, audio/visual hallucinations across cultures throughout history. It's disturbing. I experienced this as a teenager. I'd see a tall, thin shadowy figure in the corner of the room. It almost seemed amorphous, but basically bipedal and had wings, webbing on its back and underarms. It would sort of ooze down to the floor, stand upright at the foot of my bed for a bit, then sort of ooze into the air a few feet over my body and just sort of stare, no eyes, really, at me for a while, until I could move again. It didn't really talk, but it sort of breathed/whispered gibberish at me in a very hostile manner. I'll be glad if I never experience that again. How do humans consistently conjure up the same imagery? Crazy. The times where we have gotten close to extinction. There was a false report from a Russian radar thingy, and they thought that nukes were coming to them from America. If it wasn't for one person, nuclear Armageddon would have happened because of a software glitch. Another good one is how some horrible stuff like cannibalism is legal in certain scenarios. If it wasn't for one person, nuclear Armageddon. Soviet naval officer Vasily Arkhipov, the brigade chief of staff on submarine B-59. The radar false positive sounds more like Stanislav Petrov, though of course the real upshot there is that this has happened multiple times. Religious cults. There's so many documentaries out there, literally weeks of entertainment. I spent like a solid month a year or two ago watching documentaries/YouTube videos about the Mormon Church. There's a crap ton of videos and articles about the various Christian fundie groups, cults, and once you get deep into the rabbit hole it's honestly scary. Like straight up sinister. This is mine. Not just the cults themselves, but the psychology behind why people get sucked into them, have a hard time escaping and adapting back to reality when they leave. Fascinating and terrifying. The end. Thanks for watching.